Okay, so we're back with Willy and Wally of Glass Torch Technologies, and where we left off, you had just gotten your patent, and now you're cleared to sort of launch this company that you guys have kind of been dreaming of all these years. And how did that first year go?
Well, we once we had our patent pending status, we were able to line up our first show, and that was ASGS scientific show down in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we got into that show, and we weren't allowed much runtime. There was so much things going on that we don't know why, but our time slot was canceled, and so we had a very minimal runtime there. And so finally, when we did get the chance to run, what I did do on the stage was I took a piece of quartz, flat, it was almost like a flat piece of plate quartz. Mm-hmm. And what I wanted to do is show the scientific guys about how, our torch could run with propane as the fuel and how fast it could work quartz. And also, what I did was to take that piece of plate quartz and bring it right to the face of the torch. So I'm taking a flat piece of glass coming right up to the face of that torch, not glass, but quartz, and holding it within a ½ inch of the face of that torch. And what I was trying to show them is that our torches didn't have what they call flame splashback, which is the worst enemy of a torch, where if the flame, the radiant heat of the quartz is so intense, it's pushing the flame back to the face of the torch. And then you get this recirculating effect that will start melting a torch down, a metal torch. And ours would not do that at all. It was like so much, drive going out that it wouldn't have that effect. And I'll never forget when I was out away from it coming in with that quartz, and I heard somebody saying it's already getting up to temperature, and then I'm coming down right to the face of that torch and holding it there in that flame. You can see it splat, just like
splaying out.
Yeah. And the one guy goes, pull it, like yelling at me to pull away from it. He goes, we don't work it that close. And I'm like, no. I said, I'm showing you that this torch don't have no flame splashback coming to the face of that torch, and which causes erosion of a metal torch. And so once it started like kind of moving on its own weight, I pulled out away from it, and then pretty much that was the end of my actual demo. And I remember like just being there, and I'm like, what do I do next? And it was the first time I was ever in front of a crowd of people. I was nervous. I didn't know what the heck I was even saying. And so I put the quartz down, and I shut the torch off. And I should have kept it running. But anyway, I shut the torch off, and I'm just like kind of like there looking down, and my demo was over, and I'm like, what do I do? I went down, grabbed a hold of that torch, and picked it up in the air like that by the barrel of the torch. So the face was about, I knew where to grab it.
Yeah.
So the face, about an inch back from that head, I knew I was safe. So I grabbed it, picked the torch up off the table, and held it there. And these guys were like, I knew it just blew them away, because they're like, oh my God, you ever wait and see a puff of smoke come off my hand, me up on the stage jumping around like doing a dance or something. And I'll never forget, one guy goes, I'll be back in 15 minutes to see you try that again. I said, yeah. I said, I'll do it, like that. And then, so that was the end of that. But one connection we did get out of that show, even though I thought it wasn't a good show, because we didn't get much run, hardly, only a few minute run time.
Yeah.
And so it was the end of the show. I'm walking around, finally getting to see what was in there, like all the vendors. And I come up, and there's this little old guy sitting there, and he has a light thing on. and he's working on something, and like beads or something. And I remember they were chevron. He told me what they were. Then they were chevron beads. He was doing something with them, stringing them or something. So I come up to the guy and I just kind of nod at him, and then he looks at me. He goes, you know. He goes, I seen that flame you had been running up on that torch. He goes, during that demo. And he goes, the flame, he goes, that produced. He goes, I know somebody looking for that flame. And then he said, yeah, I had to do this type of show. He said it was a bead show. And this is where I should be. And the guy I ran into was Bob Aurelius. And he's from AUR Lenses, and that guy became like our dad. I mean, he took me under his wing and pretty much guided me, and because I didn't know nothing about the glass world, going to shows and stuff. And then
He really helped like plug you in and everything.
Yes, and that guy, he would never say a curse word in his lifetime. But I got him mad enough that because he told me about lining up for this bead show, which was coming up again, about a month or two or so after that scientific show in Albuquerque. There was this ISGB glass show, and he goes, yeah, you got to get lined up for this show. He goes, this is the show you want to do, and I was like, all right. So I tell my brother about it, and I wasn't like too interested at first. I didn't know what it was, and he explained it to me, and I'm like, I don't know. It's like, so we had a landscape company going at that time, so we got to kind of wait and do something in the wintertime. So every so often I would call Bob Aurelius and talk to him, and usually at the end of a conversation he goes, did you get lined up for that show? And I would say, no, I didn't. And then after about 4 times or so, one day he goes, damn it, I'm telling you. He goes, do that show, the ISGB show. And I was like, all right. So I told my brother, I said, man, this guy's serious. I said, he said, this is where we need to be. So sure enough, we got lined up for that show and got ready to do it. And get down there, finally, that one was in New Mexico also. And that's where I got to meet for the first time, was Lewis Wilson. And he was very helpful to us to guide us as well. I mean, Lewis, I had a lot of, a lot of interaction with Lewis. And so while I was there at the show, I heard names going around, and people were talking. I don't know, nobody from anybody there. It's I'm just in the dark. And but one mentioned the most I heard was this guy. They kept saying, man, it goes Lorne Stump. They kept saying about this Lorne Stump, man. This is the guy. He's who you want to hook up with, and so. Was there. I'll never forget. It was the show's going. I was more of a like trying to teach than I wasn't really like selling, because people were asking so many questions about our torches. It was something so unique, different than what was there. And the very first person that ever did a demo on our torch was Christina Logan. They call her the Dot Lady, and I think her site is called Christina Logan ... com. She's one of the best dot for precision, man. I mean, out there. And so she was the first one to ever touch one of our torches, run it, and really give it a workout. And by the end of her demo, after she was done, she came to me and told me what she thought about it, and it's like, wow, So it's like she was really liked it, how precise she could get.
And you guys weren't necessarily, you're machinists. You're not necessarily glass blowers, so you needed these artists to really put them through the paces.
Oh yeah. So one thing I kind of left out was one of the most interesting things that happened was after we built that Delta in 1994, that torch, after we got into shows, that torch traveled the world. That thing went to Italy, Germany, Europe. Yeah, I mean, that thing was everywhere. And
Yeah,
we should have had
once our patents were patent pending, then we sent it out to all these artists and stuff.
for them to test. You know, if somebody told us a lead or something, and we'd be there and we could send it out. You know, that's after we were patent pending. The thing is that that torch was very important because it got to so many countries. If we knew somebody vetted somebody and said, yeah, this is the person you need to send to, we'd line up and send it over to them or whatever. And that torch traveled the world. That thing, man, it was amazing. I know the guys that had that in their hands. And so anyway, like I said, Christina Logan was the first ever to really give one of our torches a workout and on an actual demo in front of a crowd. And I remember people going up to her and asking her about the torch, and then she was like looking at it, and she'd be like, yeah, it's like, I could see I was really feeding off the reactions, And she talked to me later on about it and what she thought about it. And then it was the end of the first day, and I'll never forget, I was there and they talked about this Lauren stump, and while the vendors, like the people selling equipment, were in one room, then there was this other place where another room where they were selling their beads and stuff like that. So he was in that room, and it was almost the end of the show, and they were starting to filter out of that room, and they were coming through, and everybody said, "Oh, it's Lauren," and you see this like crowd of people moving along, with coming towards our area, and I knew it was him, and coming into the area where the men, like the glass suppliers and stuff were, and all of a sudden it's like this crowd comes over and it stops, and then I didn't know who he was. I'm just kind of like there, and
you just heard the name up to this point.
Yeah, I didn't know who he really was, and all of a sudden...
Did you know why he was important, or did you just hear the name a lot?
All I know is he was like the Elvis of the glass world, man. He was like the top, and if I'd have known that, I probably would have passed out, if I knew who he was right on the spot, So this Evie, the older guy, he comes up, and there's the guy aside of him was Lauren, and I didn't know it. And so Evie started talking and asking questions about her torches and stuff, and I'm telling him, talking to him, telling him the difference about her torches and this and that, and then I'll never forget, not that, don't take this wrong, that, like, Lauren is the most down-to-earth guy you'll ever meet. I mean, he's just, I've hung out with him many times. I mean, lots of times. We've gone to shows, and after the shows, we'd hang out at his room, and with all these people, and we'd be there till the sun came back up the next morning. I mean, it was wild with him. Just to hang out with him is just like, I don't know. It's like being with a rock star, So the thing is that he's there, Evie's talking, and I'll never forget, he goes to Evie, and this was Lauren, he goes, "Hey, he doesn't know who I am, does he?" And I look over at Lauren, and I go, "No." And he goes, "I'm Lauren Stump," and he puts his hand out, and I'm like, oh my God, here he is, there he is, and so next thing I'm like, hey, about running torches, and then I remember Lewis Wilson was there, and they're like, okay, they're like, well, how about coming over to Lewis Wilson's studio at 9 o'clock, and we'll run over at his place. So it's like, wow, I knew that was that was it. You know, this is the guy. If we get through this one, and this could launch it, you know. And so I was a ball of nerves. I think the show was over at 5, and then we went out to eat quick, and then getting ready, and got over to Lewis's place, and we're in there, and then Lauren comes in a little after 9, and then what he does is he gets ready, and I'll never forget when Lauren got ready to run, I'd be trying to tell him, look, here's how you adjust this torch, and he'd be like, no, get away from me, like, yeah, I'm going to do this, you know, myself, and I, you know, try to explain it, but he wanted to just go through the paces on his own, and I'd be just there making sure he wasn't skating a bad flame or something, you know, because, you know, nobody's ever seen our torches, you know, we're so new at it, you know, and so ended up, he started working, started going and doing stuff, and I'll never forget, he did this flower arrangement with strawberries, a bee on it and everything, and he had no tools, and he did it all in by fingers with his hands. I mean, this is amazing what he was doing, you know. So he did a bunch of things and was testing, you know, how it was treating the glass and colors and stuff like that, and he went through that, you know, like, just never said a word. And at about 2 o'clock in the morning, he shuts the torch off, and I'll never forget, he sits down on this one chair, and I'm standing with a bunch of other people on the other side of the room, and it felt like the room just split in half, and like he was looking right at me, and I'm like, this is it, you know.
The moment of truth.
Break. Yeah, and he just looked up, and he goes, you impressed the impressed, and after that, it was like floodgates opened, and that's how we got our start. And one other interesting way we got our start was, well, yeah,
What?
about, you know, where we would, if somebody was within a 200-mile radius of us, and when we're just starting off with Boro guys, you know, where, you know, they'd, hey, yeah, I heard about your torches, this and that. And we'd go right to them.
To the shop.
Yeah, right to them. And they'd be like, oh, well, I'm in a garage, or I'm in a shed, or a retrofitted
Yeah, we didn't
care where. We were coming.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we'll be there. And they couldn't believe that we would travel to them to, you know, let them try the torches out, you know. And so that's how we kind of, you know, started off, you know. And but yep, so after that, then it was a blur, man. It was like, that's how, you know, we got on. I did a lot of shows in the early days, man. Just
How much of that that feedback from all these artists, because this is, I mean, this is a huge timeline we're talking about. Like, I mean, you're already in 10, 15 years at this point, and, you know, from the time that you, like, from 1991 to, you know, what are we talking, the 2000s at this point?
Well, yeah, well, we started, really got our start, it was 98.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
got
So,
into
like, 7 years, basically. And, like, how much of your design has migrated from that initial torch, like, since then?
As far as, like, explain more.
Like I know that since then you've had compressed air models, you've had different torch models. Like, has the actual internals of your design, like, changed significantly or barely at all in that amount of time?
You take over. I'm not going to say nothing, but he's the one.
And you like,
take it
it seems
away.
like you do a lot of the actual machining
The main
part of
base
it.
is still, you know, what we came up with.
Yeah, but we have
well, I mean,
made
we've done-
changes over the years,
Yeah.
and when we make changes, we do it to improve, and
Yeah.
we will not, like, we never say, oh, well, oh, new one improved, oh, this, that. No, we keep perfecting as we go along, and keep, you know, trying to get
but the
more top
main
end or whatever.
base of what we began with
Yeah.
is still the same. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's still the same.
Yeah, and
but,
then now we came up with the ear option and stuff. and-
different head design.
Yeah.
And so we
Yeah,
keep
we
trying
keep
to perfect
improving,
on top of
making
what we do. You know?
things better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're more polished, more refined. Yes. To that question.
Okay.
Some other things we don't talk about, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a little pause there.